Guys, I am Emmanuel, and this is our second video on the data analysis with Excel series. In the second module, we are going to be covering formulas and functions. So welcome to the video. Let's dive into it. So in this second video, we are going to open the data that I told you to download from GitHub, the first video. So we are going to open our first worksheet. And here we are. So we are going to deal with formulas and functions. So we have used formulas in our day-to-day lives, or when we are carrying out simple or basic arithmetic formulas like adding, subtracting, multiplication, and division. So that is what we talk about when we say formulas. Then for functions is what might be new, but we will make it easy. We will make it easy by doing some practice. So in the formulas, the first formula that we are going to undertake, or we are going to practice, is just reading from a certain cell using the cell's address and displaying that value. What I mean is this. So before we start writing the formula, I want you to keep in mind when we are writing formulas or functions in Excel, we start with an equal sign. That equal sign tells Excel, hey, we are dealing with a formula or we are dealing with a function. So I'm going to say equals, then I am just going to write the address of this cell over here, and then it will write the number that is in that cell. So the address for this cell is C3. You can just verify that by clicking on it, and then over here, you'll see it writes C3. Or where you wanted it to write also, it just writes for you C3. So when you press enter, you notice that you get the value 5 because you are reading from this cell. You are reading what is in this cell. That's why you are getting the value that is in that cell. So for the next one, it's going to be equals C4. You see, it's that easy. Now, on to the next trick that is very handy while performing tasks in Microsoft Excel, which is called autofill. So you notice that if I have very many rows, I will have to go in, type in equals C5, equals C6, that takes a lot of time. That's why we have a way of duplicating the same formula. So once you write your formula for the first time, just click on it. Then at the bottom of the cell, at the bottom right of the cell, bottom right corner, of the cell, you place your cursor over there. Then when you hover, you will see the cursor changes to a dark color. So once it changes to that color, you just drag it. Just drag it, and there you go. The same formula applies. The same formula applies downwards. Good. So we are done with that. The first thing that we have learned today is to use the sales address and read the value in that address. Okay. The next one is total salary. So in this column, we are going to perform the addition. So we're going to be adding the annual salary and the bonus. So as I told you earlier, we are going to start with an equal sign to tell Excel that this is a function, or this is a formula rather that we are entering. So equals, then I'm going to write the sales address, which is D3, and add E3. Then press enter. And there we go. So it's true that 120,000 plus 10,000, you get 130,000. Then I drag it once again to perform the autofill, and there we go. Good. So the next that we're going to be doing is division. So I'm going to say equals. So this is the bonus rate. So the bonus rate, we are going to calculate it by taking the bonus over the annual salary. Just basically taking bonus over annual salary, only that. So I'm going to say equals, then equals, then the bonus, then use this symbol for dividing here, then I divide by this, and there you go. That's the rate. And I'm going to perform my autofill function once again. Good. So I want my rates to be in percentage. You know, rates are mostly given in percentage. So you remember this button? I told you that we'll see how it functions in the first video. So when I click on this button, you see, it converts it to percentage. Then you can play around with the decimals the way you want. So you see, I'm increasing decimals. I can reduce them to 1. Then the same way you did autofill, you can do it. And there you go. You have it. Okay. In this column, it's written confirm total. So here we are going to be doing multiplication and addition. So we are going to use this rate and the annual salary to go back and get this bonus. You see? So if I take my bonus rate multiplied by this salary, I should be getting the bonus. So I'm going to do that. Then for getting the total salary once again, once I have the bonus, I have to add the annual salary. I hope you're getting me. It's just simple arithmetic. So equals, then I take the bonus rate multiplied by the annual salary. Let's see what we get first of all. So we get 10,000. We get back our bonus. Then now for me to get my total salary, I am going to add my annual salary. And there we go, 130. So we have confirmed. We were just confirming if we'll get this, and you can perform our autofill operation once again, and there we go. Okay, now we have done addition, multiplication, and division. So I have this column over here, and it says does total. So I think there's something that is written on this cell, but I can't view it. So you remember when I told you that you should just enlarge this. So what I've done is just hover around here in the middle of the columns, then the cursor changes to this, then you can drag. Or else you can just hover around here, then double click, and there you go. So I'm just going to drag till I see everything. So it says, does total salary equal confirmed salary? So basically what you want to do, now we are through with formulas. Now we want to do some, I'll call them functions, that, for example, I want to confirm if what we got here and here, they are the same. We want to compare. Basically, it's a comparison. Then after comparing, we want to get two answers. So it's either true or false. So let me do it, then you'll have an idea of what I'm saying. So I'm just going to start with equals. Remember, every formula or function starts with an equal sign. Then G3 equals this, and press enter. You see, it returns true. So this is a logic operation. So it returns true. So if I drag it, I see true for all operations because this one is equal to this one. So it's saying true for all. So basically it's a way of comparing. Then after comparing, it tells you either it's true or false. Good. So let's go to this condition. It asks, is bonus greater than annual? So is the bonus salary greater than the annual salary? So you can drag over here, yeah, and get the whole expression. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with an equal sign, then bonus, then put my greater than sign over there. Good. And this one. So I'm telling Excel, hey, just go and look at the cell E3 and compare it to D3, then check if E3 is greater than D3. If that condition is true, then return true. If that condition is false, then it will return false. So press enter and we get false, and it's true. Of course, the bonus salary will always be less than the annual salary. When I drag it, you see, I get false for all. Good. So for the next one, so it says meets experience. So this data shows various job titles. You can see here we have job titles. We have the experience years that are required for those job titles. So let's say, for example, you have an experience of 5 years. You have an experience of 5 years and you want a listing of all the jobs in your data set that require an experience of 5 years or less. Okay, so to do that, I am going to have equal sign. Then I'm going to check if this cell is less is less or equal to 5. Then press enter and it says true. It says true. So it's less or equal to 5. So if I drag it over here, now it tells me true, true, true. You can just look at those conditions and see if the number of experience of years that are required are equal to or less than 5. Okay. But in Excel, we don't advise for hard coding. So the way I entered 5 over here, it's like hard coding. So the next year that I turn 6, not I turned 6, but I gained another year of experience, and now I have 6 years of experience. I'll have to come over here, change 6, have to drag over here so that it gets that. No. So in Excel, we don't advise for hard coding. So the best way is storing that variable, or in this case, we're talking about the number of years that we have worked in a particular field. So we advise you to store it in another cell, then now use that cell over here, so that in future, when you want to change that variable, you just come over here in where that cell where you entered that variable and just change it over there, and everything else changes automatically. So let's do that practically so that you may see it. So initially it was 5, but now I want to store this 5 in this cell. So have 5. Then after having 5 in this cell, I want to change here and use this cell over here. I want to use this cell over here, and we still get the same. Then I drag it. Okay, I want to change this cell, and you look at what happens over here. So let's say my number of years of experience is 1, and see if this changes to false, and there you go, changes to false. So I didn't have to come here, change 5, then autofill once again. No, I just had to change here, and this automatically changes. That's when we talk about discouraging hard coding. Okay, so let's turn this back to 5, and there you go, and ensure that this formula goes everywhere, and there you go. But I want you to notice this. So notice this requires 4 years of experience, and I have 5 years of experience, and it tells me that I don't meet this. I don't meet this. So what has just happened? So we are going to introduce another concept, which is called absolute addressing. There's absolute addressing and mixed addressing, but right now we are going to tackle absolute. So let's look at our formula. Over here, the formula was okay. We said, look at this cell. But over here, when you drag through, when you do an autofill, notice what happens is Excel still traverses or moves down this column. You see, like here, this is now using C16. This is now using C17. This is now using C18. You see? So how do we lock it so that it is only fixed on this cell? So you just come here and you have to just press F4. I'll show you the shortcut directly. The shortcut is just pressing F4. Look what happens. It adds these dollar signs in front of the column, behind the column, and behind the row. So you can just write them manually or press F4. I'll go for the shortcuts. Then press but remember, we are looking for which cell? We are looking for C15. So I'll just write here C15 and lock it. That's how we call it, locking. So just press F4 and it's locked. So now it says false because this is 6. So let's drag this formula to autofill over here. And now you see every place we have C15 locked, C15 locked, C15 locked. Okay, so we have learned a new concept, which is called absolute addressing. Just making that cell, specific cell, fixed. Okay, good. So the next thing that we're going to check is if it meets our salary expectation. So let's say, for example, I'm expecting a salary of 90,000. So I want to get a listing of all the jobs that are willing to offer 90,000 for my salary. So we'll do it once again now that we have the knowledge of absolute referencing. So we're going to say equals, then we are going to check if this annual salary is greater than or equal to, so greater than or equal to this. And I have to make that cell fixed. So just press F4 and enter. You see, we get that it's true. So 120,000 is greater. So let's drag this and true, this situation is false. You see, so right now I'm able to get all the jobs that are willing to offer my salary as 90,000 and above. Okay, I want you to note this, that if instead of writing greater than or equal to, if you don't start with the greater than sign equal, Excel gives you a warning. Let's try this. And greater than over here and enter, and it says, hey, you cannot you cannot use the greater than or the less than symbol after the equal sign. So it always comes first. That's an error that most of the people make. So luckily Excel can correct that for you. So I'll accept that correction. And there we go. Okay. Okay. Now we have meets both 1 or 0. So something that I've not told you is Excel, behind the scenes, Excel treats true as a value of 1 and treats false as a value of 0. Okay, so that's why we have here 1 or 0. So 1 is true and 0 is false. So so we are going to check that if it meets both our salary expectation, and our experience. So we're going to check if that particular job requires an experience of 5 years or less, and also if it pays 90,000 and above. So how do we do that? So that one is for this condition. So now we have here meets 1 or 0. So it either it can meet only one condition. So you can find that it requires a salary, it requires an experience of less than or equal 5 years, and maybe it pays less than 90,000. So that's what you want to check, if it satisfies only one condition of these two. So I'm just going to say equal. Then I'm going to check if for us to check whether at least the job meets one condition, we are going to use multiplication. So we are going to multiply this one and this one and see what the answer will be. So let's try it and you'll see. We're going to multiply a true and a true. So here, multiplied by this, and we get 1. So I told you that behind the scenes, Excel treats this as 1 and this as 0. True 1, false 0. So when I drag it, I'll get 1s and 0s. Okay, good. So that is for checking if it meets both the conditions. It meets the number of experience of years that we want and the salary expectation that we want. So now here we want to say if it's a true or false based on these values over here. So I'll just say equals, then I'll check this cell if it's equal to 1 and it will return true. Okay, and there you go. A 0 false, 0 false, 1 true, and etc. etc. Good. So we are through with these logic operations. So right now, you know Boolean values. So when I say Boolean values, it's just a true or false. They are called Boolean values, true or false. So we are done with formulas. Now the next thing that you're going to tackle is the functions. So you're going to go to the folder that I told you and open the functions. Okay, so this is the exercise for practicing the functions. So the first thing that I'm going to show you is to use the AND function. So you remember in the what you have done just a few minutes ago, we were multiplying a true and a true to get true, to look if two conditions are met. So in here, we are going to use AND to see if it's satisfied. If both conditions are satisfied, then we are going to return a true. So we are going to there are some columns which are hidden over here, so you can just expand this and you'll see them for the exercise that we had just done earlier. You'll see them. So we want to look at based on the experience and based on the salary. If it meets both the conditions, then we return a true. So you're going to say equals, then and then have a look at this, comma. When you're dealing with functions, when you're writing, Excel gives you a hint of what you should write. So, like for example here, when I wrote and open the brackets, so it tells me logic 1, comma, logic 2, logic 3, that way. So my logic 1 is to check what is in L3 and what is in M3. So M3 and close it and press enter. And I have a true. And there you go. So that is the first function that we have done. Okay, so the next function is the average function. But before we do the function, we can use the formula and have a bit of feel of how using formulas or using functions rather is easier. So if I were to calculate the average for this, I would add these cells and then divide by the number. So they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So they are 10. So I have to say equals, then write C3, then add, add again this, add this, add this, add this, add this, add this, add this, and add this. Then after adding them, I have to use some parentheses over here. Have to use some parentheses over here. So by the way, you can edit from here, from the cell, or from this formula bar. I prefer editing from this formula bar because I have a better view. Okay, so divide by 10. So going to divide this by 10, and there you go. I get 5.3. So I can do the same for this cell over here and have that. The same here, I have that. So instead of going through that all unnecessary work, Excel has functions built in for you, like the average function. So if I say equals, then I write average. Then it asks me for number 1 and 2. So I'll just give it the range of all the numbers I want to add from C3 to C12. Then just close it and enter. Here we go. I get 5.3. Very easy and faster. So I'm going to drag this and there you go. The next one that you're going to do is count. So we are going to count how many how many jobs do we have in our data set. So I'm going to start with an equal sign. Remember, every function or every formula starts with an equal sign. So then I'm going to write count. Then after count, it asks me for value 1 and value 2. So I'm just going to count from here to here. Just give it the range. So what's a range? I forgot to introduce that to you. So a range, it's basically, just instead of writing C1, C3, C4, C5, C6, C7, you just say from C3 to C12. Just give it, it's a range. It's a range. So instead of typing each cell address one by one, you can just give it a range. Just say from cell C3 to cell C12. Excel understands it perfectly. So when I press enter, I get 10. So I have 10 jobs over here. I can just drag it over here and get 10 also. Then we have meets goals count. So we want to count how many jobs meet our qualifications or the parameters that we set, you know, the experience and the expected salary that we had set earlier. So we can have a look at how many jobs over here require an experience of 5 years or less. So to do that, we are going to use a function called COUNTIF. So, and by the way, there are so many functions in Excel that we can't cover all of them. But once you learn using some of them, you get to understand how they function and how to, like, you can navigate a new function when you encounter it. You can navigate it. So like, for example, over here, I'm told COUNTIF requires a range and a criteria. We already know what's a range. A range, I'm going to look at this range. Then it requires a criteria. So what's my criteria? So my criteria is, first, you add a comma over here. Before the criteria, you have a comma. So add it, good. Then now it activates the criteria. So what's my criteria? My criteria is less than or equal to 5. So your criteria is should have quotation marks. So I'm going to insert quotation marks. So over here, quotation marks are over here, and I am going to have less than or equal to 5 and press enter, and I have 6. So it tells me 6 jobs over here require an experience of less than 5 years or equal to 5 years. We can confirm that, we can verify that. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6. Good. So we are correct. So we can also check how many jobs require or will pay 90,000 and above. So we are going to repeat the same thing, equals, then count if, and immediately we have a parenthesis, we have range activated, so give it the range. This is the range, and the next thing is a comma, so comma. Then the next thing is criteria. So what's the criteria? The criteria, remember, the criteria must be in quotation. So the criteria is less than, the criteria is greater than 90,000. So remember to start with the greater than sign. So greater than or equal to 90,000. And there we go. So I had selected the range wrongly. That's why it's telling me 11, which does not make sense because I have a data set of 10. So you can have a look at the range that I gave. It was D3 to D14. So I'll have to correct that, and I'll do that by just simply changing here to D12 and enter. So I have nine jobs. 9 jobs will pay me 90,000 and above. Good. So down here, we are going to repeat the same thing, but now we are not going to hard code our values. Remember, earlier I discouraged you from this practice of hard coding your value, your parameters in Excel. The parameters should be stored somewhere in a cell, or those variables that will be changing should be stored somewhere. Then they can be changed from there. You see, mine have stored them over here. So what I'm going to do, we are going to repeat the same thing. So this is count if. So start with an equal sign. Always remember that equal, then count if, then the range. So the range is over here. Perfect. Then have a comma. Then in the criteria, that's what is going to change. So the criteria, this is how you write the criteria. So it will be equal, less than or equal to. Then we are going to use and put the cell address of what we are comparing. So we're comparing it to this 5 over here. So let's press enter, and there we go. We have 6. Now, let's say my experience changes to 7. Let's change it there, and notice what happens. This one changed to 8, but this one, since we had coded the value, it does not change. We have to change it over here. You see, that's why we advocate, or we discourage rather, for hard coding. Good. So I'm just going to change this back to 5. And there you go. So we can do the same over here. Do the same over here. Because count if. I hope you practice this, because these functions require a lot of practice. So I'm going to select the range over here, comma, then my criteria is going to be, greater than or equal to 90,000. So I'm going to use an and remember to add that cell, and we are good. Enter. So we have 11 because I selected the range wrongly. Once again, you can just correct this, and there you go, 9. Good. So now we know how to use the count if, and functions. So that's the end of the function introduction. So the next functions that we are going to take a look at are the logical functions. Logical functions. These are functions like the if functions, So we are going to tackle the if function and see how it works. So we are going to look at if both our conditions are met, and based on this, we will return a custom value. Now, not a true or false statement, but now we will customize it to what we want it to be written. So, so let's dive into it. It's pretty simple. Remember, we are going to start with an equal sign for every function. So equals, then if. So if, then our parentheses follow. So immediately we have our parentheses. Excel tells us, hey, this is what you should follow. So the first thing that is activated over here is the logical tests. So it is the logical tests. So what is the logical tests? So we want to check if this number of years of experience meet what we have. So we want to come to this column over here, look at what value is here. Then based on that value that is here, we return a custom value here. So we're going to say if, then open the parenthesis, but remember to start with an equal sign. So equals if, then a parenthesis, then the logical tests. So what is the logical test? What are we testing? We are testing this P3, then followed by a comma. Then value if true. So what do you want to return if it's true? So for that value, you're going to use these quotation marks. So we are going to have it returning goal met or goal not met. Goal met or goal not met if it's false. So you see, after having the value if true, we have to have a comma, then value if false. If it's false, then return return goal not met. Goal not met, then enter. And now we can drag this and have a look, make some adjustment over there, and there you have goal met, goal not met, goal. You see, now we are able to customize what we want to see if a particular condition is met. So that is the if. So the next thing that you're going to be covering is the math functions. So you're going to open this math functions. Then we're going to carry out some math functions over here. So here we have a data of different job titles or job opportunities in different countries with different salaries. Okay, so let's perform the first one. So count all yearly salary. So we want to count this, how many data are in the inside here. So we're going to say equals, then count, then you ask for a value. So the value is from M2 downwards, going downwards. As you can see, I'm taking a lot of time scrolling down. So when you want to highlight a whole column, you just say, now you don't say from M2 to somewhere, but you just give a range of M, then these columns, then M again. Then now you have selected the whole column. And after that, you have a comma. Oh, pardon. You don't require another value since you have given the range. So count. Good. Now you have the total number of salaries inside here. So to be more precise, you can subtract 1 because it also counts this one, and this one has no salary. You can just be precise and say here -1. So -1, and there you go. That is the correct value. So over here, we are counting all the jobs. So just repeat the same thing, but now in A3. So equals, then count, then value is from A to A. Enter. So we get a hyphen. So what's the reason? So there is count and there's count with an A. Count and count with an A. So count, it counts cells that have numbers, while count with an A counts cells with any data. Count A with any data. So let's just correct here and have an A, and there you go. So what it had done initially, it was trying to traverse through this column over here, this A column, but it couldn't find any cell with data which is in numerical form. That's why it returned an hyphen. So there you go. So now we want to look for the jobs that are only in United States. So you're going to use count if. So count if, then sorry, I forgot to start with an equal sign. So equals, then count if, then after open of parentheses, we get what we need to add. So we need to add a range. So we need to give it a range. So the range is from K downwards. So just give it K, then K. You've just given it the whole column. Then it asks for criteria. So the criteria is going to use this. Edit it from here. So the criteria is instead of just writing United States, you can write United States, but you can just use it over here since it is written here. Then lock it. You remember I showed you how to lock? Good. Then press enter and you get the value. Okay. So the next one is to count the data analyst jobs. How many are they? So equals, then count if, then give it a range. So the range is M colon M comma, then the criteria. So the criteria, you're going to look for this and lock it with F4 and close the parentheses, and there you go. So we selected the wrong column. It's the A with the job title. So it's A and A, and good. So we have 9,606. So I believe right now you can see how we can get valuable insights from a particular data set with just a few functions here and there. Right now, we are able to tell some parameters on this data. We are able to tell how many jobs are here, how many jobs are in the United States of America, how many jobs are for this title, you know. Okay, now we move to combining two parameters. Okay, so we are combining how many jobs are in the United States of America and how many of them are data analyst jobs. How many require data analysis? So we are going to use a special if. Okay, so it's called count if. Yes. Okay, so basically what this function does, it allows you to enter more than one criteria. So it has an option of entering more than one criteria. And based on those criteria that you've given it, it is able now to count. Okay, so let us do it. So remember to start with an equal sign. So equals, then immediately after you add your parentheses, you get it tells you, hey, I need criteria range 1. So you have to give it the range of where you want to look at. So I am going to be looking at this range for the US. I'm going to start with the US. So the US is over here. So it is what is this alphabet over here? Let me click outside, escape, and it's K. So it's K colon, then K. Got an equal sign once again, equal sign. Perfect. Then comma. Then the next thing you have to enter is the criteria, criteria 1. So my criteria is to check if it's in the United States of America. So I'm going to have this and use F4 to lock it. Perfect. Then I have a comma, then criteria range 2. So what is the next range? The next range is for data analysts, US and data analysts. So I'm just going to go to get the job title, and it's A. So it's column A. So A colon A, and a comma, and then the next thing that it asks me to do is criteria 2. So give it the second criteria. So I'm going to give it the second criteria as this one, and then lock it. Perfect. Then it goes on and on and on and on. It allows you to give more and more criteria. So I'm going to end at that, and there you go. I get 8,339 jobs. So I hope right now you have a feel of how easy it is to deal with functions in Excel. You know, just from, if you give it one parameter, just following its hints, you are able to tell what is expected here, what is expected here, what is expected here, and you know the terminology. When you are told to give the range, you know how to give the range. When you're told to give a criteria, you know how to present the criteria. Good. So the next thing we're going to cover is sum. So basically, we are going to add all this column. So this one is pretty easy. So equals, then sum, open, then it asks you for number 1 and number 2. So I'm going to give it this range. So it's M, this, and M. And I have it. This is a summation of everything. See? So the next thing that I'm going to do is, you know, get the of the jobs that are in the United States. So we are going to add their salaries. So I'm just going to say equals, then sum if, then it asks me for a range. So my range is, I'm going to be adding this column. So it's M, comma. Then my criteria is United States. I'm going to lock it. Going to lock it using F4, as I told you earlier. And then it asks me for the sum range. So my sum range is over here. That is what I'm going to add. So M, and there we go. Have it. So the next one is for the data analyst. We do the same thing quickly. So this is sum if it asks for the range. So the range is K, where we are looking for no, the range is A, where we're looking for the title data analyst. So we have A, and then A, the whole of that column, then comma, then the criteria. So the criteria is data analyst. So I'm going to press it and use F4 to lock it, comma, then the sum range. Sum range is M. So M is M, and there we go. We have it. Then now we have sum, we have equals sum if, then we have the range, criteria, but now remember this if has an S, and what it does, it gives us more than one criteria, a possibility of adding more than one criteria. So I have to give the sum range, then I give the criteria range, then the criteria 1. Okay, so let's do it. So what is my sum range for the first one? So I want to add M. This is what I'm adding. So M, then comma, then it asks for the criteria 1. For the criteria range 1. So the criteria range 1 is you are going to start with the United States. So the range is A. So A and A. Perfect. Comma. And then we see the next one. The next one is criteria 1. So what is the criteria? It's US. So United States over here. And then I'm going to lock it with F4. And there you go. Then comma. Then give the second criteria. Notice now we are not being asked again to give the sum range because the sum range is constant. What is changing is the criterias and the range, the criteria ranges. Those are the only parameters which are changing. So I'm going to give it once again. And the criteria range 2 is this, pardon me. For the country, we are going to use K, not A. Sorry for that. So this is K. Then for the job title, we are going to use A now. So that is the range. So this is A. That is the range. Then, comma. Then we have the criteria 2. So the criteria 2 is this. And then lock it. And there you go. Have it. Okay. So that is the summation. Okay. So the next one is average. So right now, I know you have a basic understanding of how these functions work. So what is the average? So just say average. Remember to start with an equal sign, equals, then average, then this, then number 1 and number 2. So number 1 and number 2. So basically that's a range. When you see that, that's a range. So my range is M. I'm going to do M and M. And there you go. I have the average as 123,000. Okay. So you cannot get the average of all the jobs. You'll simply get 1. Okay. So the average of the salary in United States. So I'm going to say average, then if. So remember to start with an equal sign and immediately we get this. So range, give my range is M, comma, then give the criteria. So my criteria is to check if the job is in the United States of America. So it's this, then give it a 4 to lock it, then comma, then the average range. The average range is over here, K. You're looking through K. And there we go. And we get an error. So we get an error. So what has just caused that error? We can have a look. So average if the range is in this column, and we are looking for this in that column, then the average range. Okay, so we need to troubleshoot that. Okay, so the error is because of the confusion of the range and the average range. So this range, the range should be K over here. That is the range. Then what we are referring as the average range is what we want to find the average for. So what I had done earlier, I was finding the average of letters, you see? So that is not possible because what I had written earlier indicated that I was finding the average of number of these letters, you know, the name of these countries, of which it is impossible. So that was the issue. So M, and there we go. Have it. So let's look for the data analyst now. Equals count if, and then with an we are using the average column, average, and there you go, average if, and we are asked for the range. So the range, remember the range, what you have said, the range is this now over here, A. Then we have the criteria. So the criteria, we are checking these, locate, and then the average range. So the average range is this one, what we want to find the average for. It's M. So M, and there we go. Now let's use the average if S. So average if and S, and we forgot the equal sign once again, and we have the average range. So the average range is this one, you remember that? Okay, so it's this one. So M, comma, then we have the criteria range 1. So the first criteria we want to look at is the US. So where is the range for US? So it's K. So have K and K. Then we have criteria 1. The criteria 1 is United States, then lock it. And comma, once again. Now remember, we won't be asked again to give the average range because that one is constant. Okay. So the second one is give the criteria range. So the criteria range for the second one is the data analyst. So it's this column over here, A. So A and A. Then comma, then give the criteria. So my criteria is data analysts, then comma, and then the next one is the criteria range. So my criteria, I forgot to lock this. Then the next one is the criteria range for the third, but we don't have the third criteria. So our function ends here, and there we go. We have it. To undertake the statistical functions over here. So we are going to open them, and here we go. So these ones, you can do it right now. You can count, you can do average. The only thing that is new is median, a standard deviation, mean, and these quarters over here. Okay, so we are going to tackle them because right now we have a flow of how these functions work. We are able to understand what different functions require. Okay, so we are going to start with the median. For the count and average, you can do them by yourself. So I'm going to find the median of this data. So start with an equal sign, then median, and then number 1 and number 2, basically requesting for the range. So you can also give the range. Instead of typing manually M:, you can just select the column, and then there we go. This means that it's not fitting, so just double click here and you have your value. The next one is standard deviation. So standard, start with an equal sign, then standard. So there are so many standard deviations. So we are going to use this one, standard deviation S. Most commonly used, it's the most commonly used standard deviation. Then it asks for number 1 and number 2. basically a range, give it this range, and there we go. The next one is mean, just looking for a minimum value. So take equals, then mean, then give it this range over here, and there we go. The next one is the quartile. So we are going to take quartile. Start with an equal sign, then quartile. So we have quartile.x and quartile.inc. So this one returns percentile values from 0 to 1, 1 exclusive, and the other one, 1 inclusive. So we're going to use this one. Just use the first one. And now we are asked to give an array, then the quartile. So the array is basically this one, an array of data. So an array, you can just think of it as a range of or a number of data sets given, like 1, 2, 3, 4, that way. So comma, then the quartile, you want the first quartile, second quartile, or the third quartile. So I'm going to choose this cell over here with 1, and then lock it with F4, and there we go. So the next one, you can do it quite easily, equals a quartile. Then give the array over here, comma, then give you want the second quartile, and there we go. You can do this very easily because then this is the quartile function. Then we have an array over here, and then comma, then we want the third quartile, lock it, then we have this. Then this one is the maximum value. It returns the maximum value. So just have equals, then max, then give a range over here. And then we are done. This one is mod, very simple. Then give a range and we are done. Have it. And there we go. Okay, so we are through with that. Now we can calculate the average salary over here. So we want to calculate the average salary of a business analyst based on this data. So I think right now you have an idea what function you're going to use. Okay, so we are going to use the average if. So average if, got to have an equal sign over here, and then give a range. You're asked to give a range. So the range of where we want to find the average is over here, then comma, then sorry. So this is the range of the criteria. So the range of the criteria is over here, then comma, then the criteria. So the criteria, we want to check if it's a business analyst. Sorry, once again, the range for the job title is over here. Then we have a comma, then the criteria. So the criteria is to check if it contains business analysts. Then we have to lock it, have this, then F4 to lock it. F4 to lock it, and then, or rather, let's not lock it because we will be auto-filling downwards. So just have it that way. Then give the average range. So the average range is over here, is what we want to find the average for. And there we go. So that's the average. So you can drag it downwards, and there we go. So now we want to rank this data. So we want to rank the data. So you have equals, then rank. Then you're told to give a number, a reference, then an order. Okay. So for the rank, so when you have S2, you have given the number that you want to rank, which is this one, X2, X2. Then the reference is you want to reference from X2, then lock it. Then the order is in descending or ascending order. In descending or ascending order. So I want to start from the highest. So I'll say X11. Sorry, X11 over here. There, I have it. So that is rank 1. And I have an error. So there's something that I haven't locked well. So the issue is over here. We forgot to lock this cell. So I have an F4. Then after that, you have a comma. Then it asks you for order. So order, you either have 0 or 1 for ascending. So 0, as you have been told here, 0 descending, 1 for ascending. So I'm going to use ascending and press enter. And then have this now autofill. And there you go. There you go. Okay, perfect. So the next one, what you're going to be looking at, the next functions, is the lookup functions, where we have the VLOOKUP and the HLOOKUP. Basically, VLOOKUP meaning a vertical lookup, where we'll be looking vertically, and HLOOKUP meaning horizontal lookup, where we'll be looking horizontally. Okay, so here we are. We have our data sets. Okay, so we are going to carry out the VLOOKUP. So you just start normally, VLOOKUP, and then okay, it requires a bunch of parameters. So as you can see, we have the lookup value, we have the table array, we have the column index, and we have the range lookup. Okay, so our lookup value. So we are going to be looking up this value. Okay, then our table array. This is the table array here. For the table array, remember, you must select an array, or you must select it such that it has the parameter that you are looking for and the corresponding parameter that you want it to be returned. So in this case, I must select at least 2 columns. Okay. The VLOOKUP, we start with the equal sign. Then you have VLOOKUP. Then it asks for a lookup value. So the value that you're going to look up for is this one over here. Then comma, then the table array. Now, for the table array, you're going to use a way to select it. So you must select two columns, as I just said. So you must select the column that has the value that you are finding for, and the column that has the value that will be returned once the value you are looking for is gotten. So we are looking for this value in this cell. Then the table array, we are going to use a trick to select it. So I'm just going to select that. Then I will press Control Shift and the arrow button to go on the other side. Then while holding the Control Shift, I press the downward arrow and it selects everything. Okay. Now, once everything is selected, I'm going to change this letter A to this K because I want to highlight only K and L. So I'm going to have K. And there we go. I have my range. Okay, so I have my table array. So the next one is column index. So the two columns that I've selected K and L. I want to return L. Okay, so I want to return the value of L. So I'm going to give the index of L. So the index of L is 2. So I'll have 2. Then, comma. Then I'll be asked to enter a false or true. True for an approximate match and false for an exact match. I want an exact match. So I'm going to say false. Then there we go. You have Brazil. So if you can find 15,000 over here, you'll get Brazil. You get that the country is Brazil. Or you'll get that the country is Brazil. Although right now it's finding 115. So let's find all. So, or rather you can just find the Brazil. So this is the first one. So we have so many Brazils. So unfortunately, okay, here it is. Here it is. So we have so many Brazils. The data is huge, so we can't use that method to find it. But basically, VLOOKUP returns only the first value. The first value which has what you're finding. So I was finding a country which has a minimum salary of this 15,000. Okay, so HLOOKUP works the same way, but now horizontally. I mean horizontally this way. So VLOOKUP vertical, then HLOOKUP horizontally. Okay, so this is the end of this video, which is the second module of formulas and functions. I hope you have seen how easy it is because Excel gives you hints. Each and every time you enter a function, Excel tries to guide you on how to proceed with the function. So any new function, you can try and figure out how it works because you know the terminologies. You know when you're told to provide a range, you know how to provide a range. If you're told to provide a criteria, you know how to provide a criteria, and so on and so on. So thank you. Let's meet on the third video of this series. Bye-bye.